Yes. Okay. Let me start with Java 8. So last two sessions, first session basically, wherein we covered what is functional programming and what are the concepts of functional programming, uh, and what is the difference between functional programming and our object-oriented programming and procedural-oriented programming. And all. So then we covered Java 8 and 9. Okay. So these are different versions of Java releases. So you can see, so there's a plan to go till Java 17, and currently it is in Java 14 stage. So very soon it will be new release of Java 15 will be uh, launched. Okay, Java. This is what is functional programming. This is what it is like. This is a totally different programming paradigm that we are going to uh, code going forward with Java 8 onwards. And with Java 8, we have different features. So lambda expression, method references, default method, a new stream, a new data, nation. These are all different, very important features of Java 8, and it's a very big release from Java, from Oracle side. Yeah, so that we have covered, and we explained what is lambda expression, how it can be used, and uh, so we did a programming for this and we exercised it. Okay, the recordings has all the details, and then the syntax of lambda expression, how we can represent the lambda expression that we have covered. And this is one example wherein how we can write this entire code in a single line, or just in 2 or 3 lines. So my ultimate goal is to print this line, but to achieve that, you have to write so much of code so that everything will be reduced by one line. Okay. So I took an example of a calculator. We did a addition, and then we extended that exercise to other operations of calculator. And we explain what is streams and how streams helps us to uh, filter our content with using streams. You can do what, if you want to write, let's say, the 10 lines of code, it now will be reduced to one line. If you want to do some filtering, or you want to do some sorting, or you want to do some uh, conversion and all, everything can be done. And then default method, what is default method, and there are some good exercise we did it on default method. What is default method, how it can be used, all these things. And how I gave exercise in the first session. So how do we resolve the multiple inheritance problem? That also we covered, and that I explained the code, like how multiple inheritance also can be achieved using Java 8 onwards. And then we started on Java 9 features. These are some important features are being introduced in Java 9. So JSL is one, and few factory methods we added as part of immutable list set and all. So I showed exercise on that. And there is a private method also can be added to interface. Earlier in interface, you can't add a private method, so that also got introduced in Java 9. There's something module system. This is called package management system, and how we can manage your packages. Generally, we manage our classes using packages, right? So how do we manage packages? So Java 9 has come up with a module system wherein you can package, you can manage the different packages. So which package you want to expose and which package you don't want to expose. Those concepts, it is very big. This is mostly for people who wants to segregate their code base, and they want to expose only part of the code. So for, for, for those kind of scenarios, module 9 will be helpful. You can something like we use Maven, right, for build, and this one. So how do you logically group your Maven with the different packages? So something similar to that, but this is little advanced one wherein you are not loading unnecessary jars or unnecessary packages to your application. And there are some few features also we discussed. And the JSL, maybe in this today's session, I'll make use of JSL to do some exercise on Java 10. And then we did some Hello World program, how you can use JSL, what are the limitations of JSL, and what's the advantage of using JSL. And there's some off method used in Java 9 onwards. So we explained about that. These are all different exercises we did. This is These are some minor features got included in Java now. Let's see what I was talking about module system. So what exactly is module system and how it can be used. Due to time constraint, we could not do this exercise completely, but you can try it yourself with this example. I give the syntax of how we can do it, and you can see the recording. I explained the concept. Maybe there are some examples available in the direct OpenJDK website itself, how you can use it. And there are some additional features we discussed. These are different features Java 9 has. Till this point, we covered. Any questions? Okay, then let's start with Java 10. So, welcome all. So, let me start with today. I'm not going to cover majorly on the exercise part. I'll try to cover the features. And if required, we can do that. I can give you the exercise. You can try those exercises, and you can try it yourself. If you find any issues, you can reach out to me, or we can continue those exercises in the next session. Okay, since I need to cover many things, so today I'm not going to cover uh, all the programming stuff for this. Only wherever required, I'll just try to cover it. So let's start with Java 10 feature. So Java 10, there are some. These are not a very big release as such. It's overall it's like a medium kind of release. It has some features, but not very big features as such. So if you see this blue one, right, local variable type inference. This is one important feature that they have introduced. So somebody has pinged me. Yeah, sure. We'll share that the previous uh, recordings. Okay, so I'm going to cover this local variable inference. What exactly is this? And we'll go through some of the exercises for this. So maybe I'll take up at the end of this Java 10 features. Let me cover all the features first. Then I will take up this local variable inference. So at a very high level, local variable inference is basically earlier, right, in our programming, if I want to assign something to my variable, the variable is basically you should be knowing what kind of data type it is. It could be a string or long or double, or if you have your own custom object, you should be having that custom object. All these things you will be uh, already declaring. Then only you can use that variable for that particular type, right? Now with the Java 10 onwards, so there's a new concept called var has been introduced. Var is kind of a generic data type that you can assign it to any object, any variable. So it automatically understands, okay, this is of type so and so. For example, mm, if I am assigning string, right? String, it knows string is a data type of string. So yeah, automatically it infers that yes, it is this variable is a string. So you don't have to explicitly specify. So compiler will take care of that type conversion. So and we don't have to do typecasting or any such stuff with this local variable. Okay, just to give a quick this one, right? So this is what I was trying to refer. This is JShell. I think you remember, like last session, I executed the using JShell. JShell is a quick your editor wherein you can type your Java code and execute quickly. You don't need any class or your public static void main, and nothing is required. Just you can type directly and you can execute it. If you see, right, string str equal to hello world, I have assigned it. Okay, same variable I can use it like this, where string uh, str1 equal to hello world. So automatically it understands that, okay, this is of type string. Okay, now I can assign like this also, or I can assign something like this, where um, a, for example, a equal to, I don't have to specify anything. If whatever type you specify here, right, whatever the content you specify, it understand, okay, this is of type so and so. Earlier in Java, before Java 10, right, if you want to assign something, for example, variable like this, right, if it's a very big number, and if you, sorry, if it is a very big number, what you have to do, you have to put L, right? Without L, it will not work. Okay, with Java, this with variable, you can just declare like this. This will work. In case of earlier, right, if you want to call like this, and if you take this entire stuff, it will ask you to it will give you compilation error, because it doesn't know this of type like uh, listen long. So you should need, it needs a long variable. You have to do typecasting and then you have to use it, something like that you have to do, right? That is now totally removed. You can directly use it like this. Earlier you should know what is the type. For example, I'll just take an example of string like this, right? String lst equal to, if I say new of array list, okay, here lst, you can't add this, you can't add one like this, it, since it's a type of string, so you have to have like this, right? This generally we do, right? This is what we do in the case of this one, with where, so you don't have to do define everything. It so if you declare the same thing, right, lst, I'll say lst1 equal to new of array list. If I declare like this, so you can add lst1 dot add, you can add anything, you can add one, lst1 dot add, you can add two, likewise you can do anything. This becomes a generic, so it understands that, okay, anything can do added to this. Okay, so this is a strict typecasting we had earlier, right? So this is like generic one, so you can assign anything. So likewise here I specified, right? It understands that this is a string, and it assigns the string. It understands that where is the string. Now if you print a where, it will give you the result. So you'll see that result here somewhere. See, so this is JSL, right? So I'm executing here. The int, I can't do this. Remember, right? It will give error. See, where I don't have to specify anything here. It just does it by itself. This is what I'm trying to explain. Like, where is one very useful feature for our Java 10, wherein you don't have to define the variable type. It automatically understands what type of variable it is. Any questions?
Hello, Rizwan.
Yeah.
Can you reuse the var type? Like, for example, initially use it as a string, var a as a string, and then after some time, can you use a is equal to integer or something like that?
Yes, I think you can use it. We can do that exercise, no issues. Let's do that exercise. Yeah, I assigned a equal to here. This, right, now I'm assigning a equal to, now there is one, right? This is what you are referring, right? I think it should be possible. Okay, I don't think it's possible. Cannot be converted too long, so I don't think it's possible.
Okay, so it takes the first time whatever you assign.
Yes. You're right. Yes. Yeah. Now I got the point. So this is useful only in your local variables. Okay. within a method or within some loop, if you are trying to do something, then only it is useful. Yeah, that's a limitation with this one. I think, yeah, you can't do this. Thanks for this information.
Got it.
Okay, we can't do this because this is only used within your, let's say you're doing some iteration and you want to do within that iteration and you want to assign something, you can do that exercise. So this is specifically for your local variables. It is not for, yeah, you can't declare this var at the class level and use it.
Okay.
Okay. So you can do this kind of exercise, anything of this sort. So see here, it has taken everything, the list one. If you see list one is the last value, I can add and I can get this value here. If I print
in that case, you mean we cannot rewrite the variable once we declare anything?
Yes. We can't. This is basically to assign your variable with some type. Let's say in iteration, right? Let's say this is a typical case you're seeing, right? I'm adding anything to it. Earlier, we have to declare this kind of stuff, right? With this, it becomes very tight, strict that you can't add anything other than string. Now with this, you can add anything to it. Okay.
Can you print that list and see?
Yeah, I printed right here. LST. Yeah, this is it's printing it, right?
Okay.
Okay, it can add anything to it. The advantage with this one is while iteration, right? Let's say you are iterating a list or you are going through the local variable, local method, right? You have to explicitly do typecasting. Those typecasting is avoided now completely. Okay. Any questions? Thanks for this question. So I did not try this. So since I knew that this is used locally for this one, but I thought it might be possible. Yeah, thanks for that information. Okay, can we move ahead?
Yes.
Okay. The next important feature. So this itself, we can explore a lot of things. You can do exercise on this, and you can extend your var for map, for your list, for your set. You can do for anything. It is applicable for anything, even for the local date time, right? You can local date time also, you can use it. You can assign local date. Earlier you used to have date and then you have to do it. But for local date time also you can use it. Okay. Now coming back to the next one, time-based release versioning. So from Java 10 onwards, so Java Oracle has adopted a time-based version scheme. Actually, there's some specific name will be there: major release, minor release, then your security patch, and all these things. So that standardization that they have introduced. So I think this one I already explained in the Java 9 feature itself. Just to give a highlight on this, how it can be named. There's this convention where you have to specify, for example, JDK 10 dot, and then the minor version, and then patch number. So those format is standardized. Okay. And the other important thing is, so every 6 months you will get a new feature now. So there will not be any delays like earlier. If you remember Java 6 to Java 7 or to Java 8, right? There was a very big gap, right? I think for many years they did not upgrade it. Now they have promised, Oracle has promised that for every 6 months they will release a new version of Java. So this is just a kind of they have adopted some standards for the release. Okay. Any questions? Okay. Let me proceed further. Garbage collector interface. This is mainly a sub for code refactoring within their garbage collection stuff. So whatever they have implemented, it was scattered in multiple places, and they have brought everything to a single place, wherein they have exposed it as an interface, so that if any other implementers of this garbage collector, right? For them, it becomes very easy that this is how it can be done and this is how it has to be done. Okay, so there's no any uh, security issue or any uh, uh, code, basically misuse of this code. All these things are being avoided with this interface. Basically, they are keeping everything in one common location, one common place, instead of scattered development across multiple places. This is just a refactoring that they have done. For us, there's no change. Earlier, however, it was working, now it works the same. So there's no impact on the usage of this garbage collector. Any questions? Okay. Next topic is a parallel full GC for G1. I think let me ask you some questions. How many of you knows G1 garbage collector? Do you want me to explain what is garbage collector or what is G1 garbage collector? Yes, no?
Yes.
Okay. Uh, Garbage collector. So main purpose of garbage collector, I think everybody knows it. It reclaims the memory which being used, unused, right, within your heap. That's where garbage collector is used. There are multiple varieties of garbage collectors are available in the industry. Okay, so let me start with something. In the beginning, we had one garbage collector, and then the improvements had happened. So there are some a single-threaded garbage collection was there. Then somebody introduced a parallel GC garbage collector, and likewise there are multiple distributed garbage collectors. There's varieties of garbage collectors are there. I think that will be a separate session if I want to take up garbage collector as a concept, right? So at a very high level, there are multiple varieties of garbage collectors available. G1 is one of them. I think they introduced in six or seven. I think seven. I don't remember which release it was introduced. Somewhere in 7 or 8, they have introduced this G1 garbage collector. Okay, what it does is, so it distributes your entire heap memory into blocks. Each block it will run its own, so to reclaim the memory. Likewise, there are multiple blocks it makes it for the entire heap. Okay, there are different algorithms, right? So G1 uses this algorithm to clean up only that particular block which it belongs to its region, right? So likewise, entire your heap memory is divided into multiple blocks. Now, what happened was this was a single threaded application wherein if uh, if they want to, if there are memory is very high in the worst case scenario, right? If the memory usage of this entire heap is very high, that time the efficiency of G1 was not that good. So if you see the first point, for concurrent collection, G1 cannot reclaim memory fast enough. So it has to do full GC. So what is full GC? Full GC is there's a concept of in a garbage collector stop the world. That means it will not process any request. It just stops everything and it cleans up its memory, and then application is allowed to use your JVM. So until that point, so you can't use it. This is the concept of in the garbage collector. There's something called stop the world. So nothing it processes. So that time, right? That time might be 1 second or some milliseconds, right? So that at that particular time, so no request will be served. So because of this G1 process, which is a single-threaded kind of garbage collector, so it used to take a lot of time to clean up this. So now they have introduced parallelizing this process. Basically, they have improved G1 garbage collector. What it does is now parallelly it does it mark sweep compact algorithm, which actually does it parallelly, so that the process of the full GC is drastically reduced. Hope I just explained what is this one G1 garbage collector. Any questions? Good. Can we proceed? Yes.
Yes.
No. Okay. So this garbage collector itself is a totally one session. I might have to take it. Maybe if people are interested, maybe post of Java 14, I can take up what is garbage collector, what are different types of garbage collectors available, and how we can do all these things. Okay. Okay, coming back to the next one. So let me start from the top. These are different features, so don't get scared. So these are different features that Java 10 has got introduced. I'll not go in detail of all of them. Just give a high level pointers to it. So consolidate JDK forest into a single repository. So this is mostly for the JDK developers point of view. I think what they have done is JDK development itself has like scattered in multiple locations, multiple repositories, multiple regions, all these things, right? So now they have everything is brought into one single repository. From that single repository, things will be streamlined and it is simplified. That means everybody knows what is going on, what all things are there, and it will be in centralized place. So this is not specific to us, but this is just a new thing that they have done in JDK. For us, there's no impact. Everything works. It should work as it is. This is from the JDK development point of view. Somebody might be using some repositories, the other person might be using some other repository. They used to collect everything in consolidate all these things into one package and then make it as a JDK, right? So that headache for them has drastically reduced. Now it's in one single uh, repository. Okay.
What is this JEP number something and all the
These
features
are
we have mentioned?
yes. So these are all standards, the Java standards. So this is how they are giving the numbering, what all things that they are introducing it. So in we had JSR and all these things, right? Do you know JSR and JE, JD, J2E and all, right?
Yes.
Yeah, there's something similar to that. This is I would call it in a new acronym that they have introduced for this. Like JDK means Java Development Kit, right? Something like this is called JDK Enhanced Proposal.
Okay.
These are how
Got it.
this is like these are all the different things that they are doing it. So that's what they want to announce, right? For that they have used a new terminology called JEP, JDK Enhancement Proposal.
Okay.
So basically, let's say if you have any suggestion, better suggestion for JDK, you can give that as a proposal to them. So if the approval process is fine, then they'll try to include that. For everything, there'll be some number. That's what it is, JEP. Okay. The next one is application class data sharing. So why do we need this? So this is mainly for your startup footprint. So generally, some of the applications, right, Java application, when you want to start your application, Java application, and you want to start the application quickly, you don't need like a lot of classes getting loaded and then you are running it and all these headache, right? So let's say if your application startup takes 2 minutes, so how can you make it to start your application in 10 seconds, right? This is a challenging thing, right? So for that, since there are so many dependencies within the JDK and within applications, right? So they have introduced a new concept called application class data sharing. There is a totally there are some JVM arguments that you need to pass, and you need to create something CDS, use CDS. There are some JVM parameters that you have to pass to achieve this. Okay, I'll not go into details. Just to give you a high level picture, it is to for some applications, the boot time should be it is very critical. I want to start my Java application within 10 seconds or within 5 seconds. It might be taking 2 minutes or 5 minutes, right? So your server should be so fast that it should immediately, as soon as you deploy, it should start immediately. So those kind of situations, this class data sharing it will be used. So basically, this will be like you can assume as it as if you have some shared location wherein you put all your application classes, so that those application classes are already available in that location that is shared across all these your dependent classes. So let's assume this is something like just to give a high level this one, right, understanding. uh, let's say you in your application server, right? So what you do is there are multiple jars are available. That jar you want to share it with multiple applications. So what you do generally, you put it in some shared location so that both applications will be using that. Something similar to that. So all the application classes will be shared in the common location so that your application boot up time will be quick. So that's our ultimate goal. So this is basically for serverless architecture, the kind of stuff, right? So wherein you have to start your application quickly and start serving the request. So those kind of scenarios, this is being used. Any questions? So just to give how we can do that, right? So this class, the CDS, right? The CDS is basically you have to mark your application or jar file or your classes as a group, as a CDS. That means you have to mark that as a this is CDS. So you have to use, there are some JVM arguments parameters for that. Using that, if you run your jar file with this parameter, that will be marked as your CDS. Now that CDS, you will put it in some common location. Okay, that is marked as a CDS again with the JVM arguments. And then when your application starts, you have to specify your my CDS is this one, so that your application will quickly starts and executes it. There are some set of stuff. People who really are interested into know this, so they can go through the details of JEP 310, and you should be able to get all the details related to it. I don't want to cover all of them in this session. If anybody has any specific questions, maybe next session I can take you to the entire process, how to execute this entire CDS in my local. I can show that. Okay, any questions? Okay, let me to the next topic, additional Unicode language tag extensions. So I think for people who really work on the locals, right? So there are many APIs that they have extended it and they are added some support to it. So whatever support we had earlier till Java 7, 8, right? So now they extended it to support additional extensions, the currency type, first day of the week, region override, and time zone. All these things are additional things that they have added as part of the Java local stuff. So any questions?
Regarding the serverless architecture, we have some features added in Java for that.
No, it's not a feature. It is like, for example, let's say I have two application A and application B. And application A using some jar files. Application B is also using the same jar file. Let's say the jar file is some share.jar. So A and B both are using the same jar files. So that the jar file will be kept as by marking as a, this is a this share.jar is a CDS. That CDS jar will be shared between these two applications so that your bootstrap of your Java application will be quicker.
Okay.
Okay. If you have worked on application server, right? I think people who works on application server, they might be understanding this concept of sharing the common jars. So there, once upon a time, I worked on the WebSphere server, wherein I wanted to share the jar between multiple applications. So there's an option in the WebSphere application server that you can specify these are my shared libraries. So those shared libraries will be available in common location. Both the application will be using that. Something similar to that Java has introduced.
Okay.
Okay. Next one is root of certificates. These are something like JDK has added some root certificates. This by default they are adding some root certification authority certificates in the JDK. So this is something people who create certificates and create your JCerts, right? So for those people, it might be interested to know the details. Okay. The next one is experimental Java-based JIT compiler. So this is basically they have Java from the Oracle side, they have introduced a new alternative to your JIT, just in time compiler, right? So GRAL is the new one. So earlier you have this JIT itself is being developed with let's say C++ language. Now way to generate a JIT itself in a C++ language and use it. Now what they did, they created a scratch this JIT which is written in Java, and so that it understands quickly and executes it. So basically, the entire new alternative for your JIT has been introduced in Java 10. That's called GRAL, GRAAL. You can use that. And if you want to use GRAL, so these are some JVM parameters that you need to set, and you can start using that. Any questions? Can you proceed further?
Will that have performance improvement by using the GRAL?
Yes.
Okay.
It in so they were using C++. They have written this JIT compilers using C++, and now they have entirely written in Java. You can explore GRAL information. I think I think you should be able to get more details on that. Okay. Next topics are these are like final topics JDK Java 10 features. So first one, thread local handshake. This is something very internal to JVM feature. This to improve the performance that they have added. And the next one is remove the native header generation tool. So there are some Java H2 tool was there in JDK. So they have just cleaned it up so that is no more required. So that they have removed it. The other important thing was this one. Okay, new APIs has been added. Okay, this is very important for the developers, for people who actually code, right? For them, it is this one is little important that in Java uh, 10 onwards, so they have introduced some 73 new APIs. Okay, so you can see, you can just Google it, the new APIs introduced in Java 10. I think you should get all the list of things and how many got removed. Removed means deprecated. All these things you can see. I'll not cover all of them, but a few important things. So what I can show here is this one: list, map, and set interfaces are added with a static copy of collection method. It returns an unmutable, this one immutable list, map, or set containing the entries provided. Basically, it's giving you a immutable object from this static method copy of whatever collection you pass. It can be list or map, or it can be whatever is there. Your return of your object, the right, that is having immutable object with you. Maybe we can do this exercise. I can just show you how it can be done. And the other one is uh, they have introduced something like else throw. So they have something, they have added or else throw method also. This is basically something similar to get only. So, but they say use this or else throw instead of this. So that's what they are Oracle has claimed. So use this better than this. Okay, and also collectors class gets various methods for collecting unmodifiable collections. So there are some methods they have added as part of these. You can go to collections and you can check for all these new methods that got added to it. Maybe we can try this. I think I have example. Like maybe I can show this one. Any questions? Okay. Okay. I think I have opened my Eclipse. I just wanted to show you something here. My Eclipse is on Java 9, so because of that, this is giving compilation error here. Otherwise, this should have worked perfectly fine. I just to upgrade this. Okay, let's say this is what I was referring to. If you see this example, right? Let's go this example line by line. This is what you have defined, okay, and then you're printing this value. Now they have so these are copy of methods and all these things already there with the existing features itself. The new thing which got added, this one. To unmodifiable list. This is something new thing that they have introduced. With these collectors, this is mainly used for your streams. In streams, you use this to get some unmodifiable list. Ultimate goal is, for example, there's some value right here. So some processing you will do it with the stream, filtering or some finding or some conditional stuff. So after that, the collector is basically your result, which gives you the final output. If you see stream, right, stream in JDK 8 stream feature that got introduced, right, it is like intermediate state wherein you have input and it does some processing and gives the output. The output is the one which collectors will collect, right? This is the one which collects actually. This is the ultimate output that end user is expecting. Okay, so that list, if you want to make it as unmutable list, so using this API you can do that. That's what it is trying to say. Now if you, that's what here, if you see it, if you're trying to add something else, it will give error. It says it will not possible to add anything to it. So this is a typical immutable list, right? Once you have list, you can't change it. That's what it is trying to refer here. Any questions? Okay, I think this completes Java 10. So just to high level coverage of this one, Java 10 has this a new feature, local variable in type inference with var variable, with where you can assign to any kind of any type of your data type. And these are some extra things that got introduced. So the final one is, this is very important for developers, last one. Okay. Now let's get into the Java 11 features. So there is very big difference between Java 11 and previous releases, right? Now Java Oracle JDK is no more free available for commercial use, and it is paid now. From Java JDK 11 onwards, your Oracle JDK is a paid one. So for your commercial use, you have to pay to Java and get the license, and then you can use it. You can't use it as it is. So there's something OpenJDK is available. That's like a subset of your Oracle JDK. So that is available for free use, but Oracle JDK is not available for you to use for your commercial purposes. For your learning and for your prototyping, you can still use Java JDK 11.
But from Java 9 itself, it become commercial, right?
Oracle JDK, I'm talking about Oracle JDK. Oracle, there's a difference between OpenJDK and Oracle JDK. Do you know the difference?
No, sorry,
Oracle JDK, there are two flavors of your JDK available now. One is OpenJDK, the other one is Oracle JDK. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm talking about Oracle JDK. This is a commercial, for commercial purpose. You can't use it. You have to pay and use it. Okay. And the next important topic for the Java is if you want to compile your code, right? Generally, how will you do it? We compile using Java C, and then we execute that compiled code with Java, right? Now with Java 11 onwards, you can just type directly Java on the file. It internally compiles it and gives the result front. So you don't need Java C command anymore. This is one good thing for developers. So they don't have to specify Java C while for compiling their code. Java will take care of both of them. This will be a unnecessary compilation commands and all those things we have to do, right? So that is totally avoided now. Any questions? Okay. Now next topic is new utility method got added. Methods got added to string class. Earlier we had some methods, right? So along with that, with the Java 11, you can add these methods also. Is blank, lines, strip leading, strip trailing, repeat. So each one we can do some exercise. But I would recommend you people to try these exercises, and if you find any issues, anything, next session definitely will take up this. So this is very pretty straightforward. There's no big yeah, this one is blank is I can just do a one thing. Is blank I can just write out here in the J shell. So let's say string str equal to yes, right? Which str is blank. So what it does, let's see. I can't give str. I think str is already declared. str2. Okay. Now if we go here, see, I got a true. Yeah. Is blank is something new thing that they have introduced. I'm just using that variable here. Now let's say I'll call ABC and then execute. Now since I have declared as this one, so I have to assign some variable. I'll assign something called result. Okay. Now if I execute this, the result should have that value false. Getting the result right, false. So this is a new thing that they have introduced it called is blank. Okay. Likewise, they have introduced something called lines. On the string, you can use lines. Lines is also one API that they added that gives you the information about the lines of this content. And the strip is basically if you want to remove your space or anything, those things, right? Those APIs can also be used with the strip leading, strip trailing. Repeat is basically you can specify the how many times you want to repeat this entire loop. Earlier we have to use some for loop and all, right, to repeat this one to so many times. You can just directly give number and it repeats those many number of times within that your iteration. Can you experiment all these methods? There are, I think these are important methods they have added. You can just try it out these methods. Any questions? Okay. The next one is in the Java 11, there's something called lambda parameters they have introduced. Local lambda variables for this. That means you can't have var here. You can have only the primitive data types. That is your primitive data type or your custom object. You can't use var earlier. So with the Java 10 onwards, since we have var, now they have supported var also can be used locally. That's what they are trying to provide a kind of support for you to use var. Any questions? Okay. Next one is this is one good thing. This is basically nested based access control. In reflection, right? Let's say I have a method, and in that method I'm using some private method. Okay. If I want to get that private method using reflection, I have to write a reflection this one. Then you have to go to the APIs with reflection. And I think there's I forgot the name of the API, but with the reflection, it is little hard to get the exact your nested methods and available within that your method, right? Now they have simplified it. You can get with these methods, the get nest host, get nest members, is mate off. So all these APIs are basically to help you to get your members of your method. So how many? So to get that value, you have to write a lot of code, right? So that they have simplified with these APIs. Maybe this exercise I'll just definitely show with example, and we can try it out in the next session. This is people who use reflection to access your methods. For them, it is very much useful. Maybe definitely I'll try the nested based access control example with all the with one case study. We can do this. Okay. Any questions? Okay. I think this will be the last slide. And with the HTTP client, uh, they have introduced a support for HTTP2 also in Java 11 onwards. So basically, HTTP earlier supports Java HTTP 1.1 only, and now they are supporting HTTP 2 also. This gives the overall improvement of our clients and receiving responses. This is mainly helps in your upgrading your security features like a TLS feature, right? So transport layers security features that there are some releases happens. TLS 1.1, 1.2, I think 1.3 likewise, right? So there are some releases happens that gives a security features to your existing libraries, APIs, right? So those features with the HTTP2, we can extend those features and we can make use of our application little secure. And there are some benefits with the HTTP2 and all. All these benefits can be used with Java 11 onwards. So this is also one exercise that I'll just it based one and HTTP client. We can do that experiment. It's basically HTTP. I think you people might be knowing HTTP client is used to connect to other system. Let's say my application is running. Application A is trying to access application B and get the data right within my application. So for those kind of purposes, we use HTTP client. So those libraries are part of HTTP 1.1. Now we can make use of HTTP2 APIs also to get this information. So there are so many advantages with these HTTP, whatever I explained, right? Security and your upgrading your application to a newer library with some extension, with some improvements and all. That's more about HTTP client. Any questions? Okay. Next topic is reading or writing strings to and from the files. So there's some new methods has been introduced called read string, write string, right? So these are methods, new methods that got introduced with Java 11. Of earlier, you have to use dot read, and then you have to use your buffered reader. Then you have to get the value and process it, right? Now they have introduced a new method. This is like a helper method for you. You don't have to do two steps. You can do it in one step to get the content. That's what they have introduced with the read string and write string. Any questions? Okay. The last topic of the Java 11 is flight recorder. Flight recorder is basically profiling tool. This is actually a commercial tool which is available in the market from the Java, Oracle side. So what they do is with this flight recorder, you can do some your footprints of your memory, your analysis of your data, your JVM, how much it got used. All these things you can do with on your Java application. Basically, understanding diagnostics of your application, and getting some information about your heap memory, and your stack memory, your usage of your JVM. All these things we can get with the Flight Recorder. There are so many commercially. There are so many other profiling tools available. One of them is App Dynamics. So likewise, Visual VM. So these are all different varieties of profiling tools available. From Oracle also, they have a Flight Recorder as a profiling tool. Now, what they did is they exposed this Flight Recorder profiling tool from commercial to free service. That means you can at least use it for your learning point of view, for your local development purpose. Again, the problem with this one is they have introduced this. They have JFR. They have added as part of your usage as a free use, but with the JDK itself, it is commercial now. So for commercial purpose, you can't use it again. But for your development or for prototyping point of view, you can use the Flight Recorder for your profiling. So this is like one added advantage. So if you want to use App Dynamics, it is little costlier license, and it gives more features, but it's a little costly, right? So you can't use it for your prototyping and all. So with the profiling tool, with this introduction of in Java 11, you can at least use it local or in your learning purpose to understand your profiling, how it works and how we can do it. Okay, any questions? Okay, I think that's all I have for this session. So maybe next session we can cover rewriting of this one and HTTP client. We can do an exercise, complete exercise, and this one. These three features I'll just show with an example, and we can do some experiment on this. And then I'll take up Java 12 and 13, or some minor features are there. So then the major feature is Java 14. Java 14 we can cover it with some exercises.
Thank you. Can we do that exercise now here for HTTP?
That's what that we can do it in next week. So these three things: read writing on one HTTP client, and nested based access control. These three exercises I'll be doing in the next session.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I think that's all I have for today. Any questions from anyone?